All right, welcome to week 1, and we are this week reading the first 24 pages of Election, which, if you haven't noticed by now, Election takes us back to high school. And I don't know about any of you, but I think some of the easiest ways to address where our masculine and feminine identities started at least to take form, and maybe we don't have masculine or feminine identities. Maybe we started to reject some of those qualities that society expected some of us to have. But at least the imposition, right, of the binary of the masculine and the feminine are most prominent in a high school setting. So Election takes us back to a fictional high school. And even though it was written many years ago, I think a lot of the components that we see in the novel we still see in contemporary high schools across the country. That is, there is a solid divide amongst different brands of students. I don't want to be specific about that, but there are definitely cliques, right, in different schools. So you'll notice that this book changes perspective, which I find uniquely fascinating, interesting, and helpful when trying to understand what's happening. So you have Mr. M, who is Jim McAllister, who is a high school history teacher, who seems to be pretty well liked at Wynwood High School. Tracy Flick, who is, I would say at this moment, a cisgendered female, who is very ambitious and wants to be president. And then you have Tammy and Paul Warren. You have Lisa Flanagan. You have the Warrens' parents as well. You also have, I believe he's the vice principal. I don't think he actually has a section where you actually get into his own head, but he's definitely a character. I don't think in the first 24 pages we meet the janitor, but there's also a section somewhere along the way for the janitor to sort of insert himself as well. So some of the things that I want you to consider in the first 24 pages are, where do you see traditional binary ideologies of masculine and feminine identities playing out? Where do you see them being subverted? And when they're subverted, is everybody comfortable with the fact that they're being subverted? And when I say subverted, I mean going against what is expected, right, of male-female interaction, male-female identity. Because these are important intersections. These are important subversions that we should talk about. Where do you see traditional forms of masculine identity play out in the novel? You know, who do you perceive as being masculine, and how do they play out that role? How does that masculine identity affect everybody in the novel? Because we're also looking at Pascoe, right, as well. We're reading a little bit of that too. Take a look at the Mr. Cougar contest that Pascoe outlines for us in the first couple pages. It's uniquely important to understand, number one, this is a performance, but so is all gender. So is all sexuality. It is a performance. William Shakespeare was the first person to say, all the world's a stage, right? We're all playing our part on that stage. So it's a performance. And you quite literally in Pascoe have a school putting on a performance that also performs gender identity, which of course at moments during that performance intersects with what we believe with sexual relationships too, even though we're looking at high school students. So take a look at how masculinity is performed in that Mr. Cougar contest. How are women affected, controlled? How are their bodies moved according to this masculine performance? And it's a little bit different, but there are a lot of similarities between Parada and Pascoe. So those are some of the things that I want you to look at this week. And this is we're starting off really slow. We've only got about 24 pages of a novel. I want you to skim the 9 pages of Pascoe and come up with some really thoughtful, information here that we can discuss. I look forward to reading your answers.